Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Radhe Shyam, Radhe Shyam, Radhe Shyam, Jaya Radhe Shyam. Jai Shri Radha Shyam Ki Jai, Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Appearance Day Ki Jai. Go Premanandi. Just bear with me 1 second. So, welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class, Hare Krishna, from near and far. So today is the all-auspicious appearance day of Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And the class today is on Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 19th chapter, verse 10. So I'll read it because it's in prose, so it's very difficult to follow. So I'll just read it, no need to repeat. Tam Bhagavan Narado Varnashrama Vatibir Bharatibihi Prajabir Bhavat Proktabhyam Sankhya Yogabhyam Bhagavat Anubhavo Pavarnanam Savarner Upadekshyamana Paramabhakti Bhaveno Pasharati Idam Chabi Grinati. So word for word, please repeat. Tam, him. Naranarayan. Bhagavan, the most powerful saintly person. Narada, the great sage Narad. Varna Ashram Vallabhi, by followers of the institution of the 4 Varnas and 4 Ashrams. Bharatibihi, of the land known as Bharatvash, India. Prajabihi, who are the inhabitants. Bhagavat Proktabhyam, which was stated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sankhya, by the Sankhya Yoga system, the analytical study of material conditions. Yogabhyam, by practice of the yoga system. Bhagavat Anubhava Upavarnanam, which describes the process of God realization. Savarne, unto Sarvani Manu. Upadekshimana, instructing. Paramabhakti Bhavena, in greatly ecstatic, loving service to the Lord. Upasharati, serves the Lord. Idam, this. Cha, and. Abhikmati, chants. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In his own book, known as Narad Pancharatra, Bhagavan Narad has very vividly described how to work to achieve the ultimate goal of life, devotion, through knowledge and through execution of the mystic yoga system. He has also described the glories of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The great sage Narad instructed the tenets of this transcendental literature to Sarvani Manu in order to teach those inhabitants of Bharatvash who strictly follow the principles of Vraja-dhama how to achieve the devotional service of the Lord. Thus, Narada Muni, along with the other inhabitants of Bharatvash, always engages in the service of Narayana, and he chants as follows. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has clearly declared Bharata Bhumite Hoila Manusya Janma Yara Janma Sartika Kari Kara Para Upakara. The real success or fulfillment of the mission of human life can be achieved in India, Bharatvash, because in Bharatvash the purpose of life and the method for achieving success are evident. People should take advantage of the opportunity afforded by Bharatvash, and this is especially so for those who are following the principles of Varnashram-dharma. If we do not take to the principles of Varnashram-dharma by accepting the four social orders, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Sudra, and the four orders of spiritual life, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyas, there can be no question of success in life. Unfortunately, because of the influence of Kali Yuga, everything is now being lost. The inhabitants of Bharatvash are gradually becoming degraded Mlechas and Yavanas. How then will they teach others? Therefore, this Krishna consciousness movement has been started not only for the inhabitants of Bharatvash, but for all the people of the world, as announced by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There is still time, and if the inhabitants of Bharatvash take this movement of Krishna consciousness seriously, the entire world will be saved from gliding down to a hellish condition. The Krishna consciousness movement follows the process of Pancharatrika Vidhi and that of Bhagavat Vidhi simultaneously, so that people can take advantage of the movement and make their lives successful. Om Jnanatmanandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastai Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaudavani Pacharane Navishesha Shanivari Paschati Desha Talane Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastai Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Namane. So, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I'll just read the translation again, if you could repeat. In his own book, known as Narada Pancharatra, Bhagavan Narad has very vividly described how to work to achieve the ultimate goal of life, devotion, through knowledge and through execution of the mystic yoga system. He has also described the glories of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The great sage Narad instructed the tenets of this transcendental literature to Sarvani Manu in order to teach those inhabitants of Bharatvash who strictly follow the principles of Vraja-dhama how to achieve the devotional service of the Lord. Thus Narada Muni, along with the other inhabitants of Bharatvash, always engages in the service of Narayan, and he chants as follows. So please bless me, I can say something useful for your pleasure. So today's a special day, but we'll start off just mentioning something about the verse before I speak more about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So it's these Narada Pancharatra, as mentioned in this verse, is very famous, and Srila Prabhupada really liked this, especially some verses from the Narada Pancharatra. So I'll just read two of them. Sarvapadi vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchite. So I'm sure everybody's heard that verse or read that verse repeatedly. That's in the books and transcriptions. That's mentioned 390 times by Srila Prabhupada. The translation is, when we become free from all these material designations, sarvapadi vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam, when we actually become simply connected with Krishna, tat para and nirmala, that is Krishna consciousness, simply thinking of Krishna. That is also said in the Bhagavad Gita, yoginam api sarvesham. Now there's another verse which is even more famous. Aradito yadi haristapasa tatakim, naradito yadi haristapasa tatakim, antar bahir yadi haristapasa tatakim, nantar bahir yadi haristapasa tatakim. So this verse was mentioned by Srila Prabhupada 13,000 times through his books and in classes. Jai Shri Shri Shamsunda Ki Jai. So, Jai Lakshmi Shridev Bhagavan Ki Jai. So this is a very important verse for Prabhupada to repeat this verse 13,000 times. So the translation is, if you can see Krishna, anta, within, and bahi, outside, then all your tapasya is finished. You are perfect now. Tapasa tata kim, no more tapasya. And if you cannot see the Supreme Lord inside and outside, then you may undergo various types of tapasya and education, but it is all useless waste of time. So this is why we need a chariot, because life throws so many options our way, and to stay focused in the material world is difficult because we're surrounded in the material world by so many materialists, surprisingly enough, and they are 100% convinced of material goals and the importance of those. So fortunately, we have the association of our spiritual master, the devotees, Srila Prabhupada's books and classes. So he's saying how we can undergo tapasya and education, but ultimately the goal is the important thing. It's actually useless, ultimately, all this education and hardship to make a business or to become a respected, intelligent person if Krishna is not the goal. Because well, you may say it's important now, I have to feed my family, I have to do this, I have to do that. Yeah, but life is short and then you die. And so then what? C'est la vie, c'est la mort, c'est la death. That's life, that's death. So Prabhupada's making things clear for us. No superfluous, no unnecessary additions. So I wanted to, because it's such a special day today, the appearance day of Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master. On one occasion, of course, he was dealing with his disciples who were not well trained in Vedic culture, to say the least. Maybe from previous lifetimes, but in this lifetime, a lot of education was needed. And one day, it was the appearance day of Srila Bhakti-siddhanta, and the devotees had done nothing, practically speaking. And Srila Prabhupada got so upset, because obviously for him it's the most important day of the year, and if it's important for him, then it should be important for us. Right? So then Srila Prabhupada personally went to the kitchen, he cooked a wonderful feast, he showed devotees how to worship the spiritual master. And so that tradition is still going on, the worship of the spiritual master. And although Srila Prabhupada is not even our direct spiritual master, he's our grand spiritual master, but Prabhupada said that the grandfather is more kind than the father, and the great-grandfather is even more kind. And so, so we should worship Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur accordingly, to please Srila Prabhupada and to please our spiritual masters as well, of course. So we have the pranam mantras. There are actually 4. So does anybody have those that they can read? Or I've got them here. I'm not, but you can read along if you have them with you. And I thought it'd be nice to hear Srila Prabhupada personally saying those mantras to his spiritual master. So I'll just read out the translation for each verse, and then Srila Prabhupada will chant that verse. So the first one is Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Iti Namane. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at His lotus feet.
Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Namini.
Next verse is Shri Vraja-dhama Devi Dayata Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances to Shri Vraja-dhama Devi Dayata Das, another name of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who is favoured by Srimati Radharani and who is the ocean of transcendental mercy and the deliverer of the science of Krishna.
Shri Vraja-dhama Devi Dayataya Kripabhaye Krishna Sambandha
Madhurya Jvala Premadya Sri Rupanuga Bhaktida Sri Goda Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, the personified energy of Sri Chaitanya's mercy, who deliver devotional service, which is enriched with conjugal love of Radha and Krishna, coming exactly in the line of revelation of Srila Rupa Goswami.
Madhujjala Premadhya Srirpanuga Bhaktidaya Sri Gauda Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namaste.
Namaste Gauravani Srimutaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruddha Pasidanta Dvanta Harine. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who are the personified teachings of Lord Chaitanya. You are the deliverer of the fallen souls. You do not tolerate any statement which is against the teachings of devotional service enunciated by Srila Rupa Goswami.
Namaste Gauravani Srimate Dhinatani Rupanuga Viruddhapa Siddhanta Dhantahari.
Jai Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. It's nice to hear Prabhupada glorifying his spiritual master like this, right? So in Mayapur, in 1976, Srila Prabhupada gave a class on the appearance day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So he began by talking about the circumstances for the appearance of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. So the Krishna consciousness, practically speaking, was lost before the appearance of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur appeared, and then gradually he was re-establishing the proper understanding of Krishna consciousness. So there was one particular thing, because he was living in Mayapur, but he wanted to find the appearance place of Lord Chaitanya. So he was doing a lot of research, because there were different people saying different things, and some people were motivated, because if you have a temple at the appearance place of a great personality, you automatically make an income, you know. So people had vested interests. So by studying different maps, which was difficult because the Ganges keeps changing direction. So what is a village at one time, 20 years later, might be in the middle of the Ganga. You know? So maps were problematic. But then one time, looking out from his house, he saw a great effulgence coming from one area, and he could actually see a village also in that place. So, and the next day he went there, and there were no buildings, there was no great effulgence. But next to one tree, he saw a very unusual collection of tulsi trees, tulsi bushes. And this was in a place where tulasi would not normally grow. So the locals said that they couldn't understand why tulsi was growing there, because the soil was not good for her. So then he went to his spiritual master, Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, and asked him to accompany him to that place to see if this was the place. So, as Jagannath Das Babaji was so old, he was put in a basket and put on the head of his assistant, and they all travelled to this location together. And when they got there, then Jagannath Das Babaji, even though he was so frail that he could be carried in a basket, he jumped like 6 feet, 2 meters in the air from enthusiasm. And this is it, Lord Chaitanya appeared here. This is his appearance place. Obviously not in English, but those emotions. So this was, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was establishing Krishna consciousness and revealing what was there already, but the blind could not see, so he was manifesting for us. So he also wanted the whole world to understand, to have access to Krishna consciousness. So he was a family man. He had a few children already, and after the third one, then he made a particularly strong prayer that Krishna, please send a ray of Vishnu to spread your glories all over the world. Because Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a great desire. He wanted to see Americans, Russians, Hungarians, everybody to come, even English people, to come to Mayapur and chant the holy names together. So this, Prabhupada makes the analogy, it's a bit like when Advaita Acharya was calling for the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. So Advaita Acharya is such an important personality, and just for this reason, he's also Mahavishnu. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the cause of in not just physical, spiritual, every way, for the appearance of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. So then, on the 5th day of the dark lunar fortnight of the month of Govinda, February 6th, 1874, by the Western calendar, at 3:30 in the afternoon, Bimala Prasad Datta, later to be known as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, made his appearance in Jagannath Puri. So the family was in Puri at that time, in the state of Orissa, not far from the temple of Lord Jagannath. So when he was born, there were 32 bodily symptoms of a great personality. They were all present. And also when he was born, the cord, the umbilical cord, was wrapped around his neck like a Brahman thread. So these were all great signs. The astrologer, who at that time read his chart, said he had never before seen such a horoscope filled with all the signs of a great personality, and he would become world famous as a brilliant teacher of life's ultimate goal. Interestingly, there's some research which has been done about the family tree of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and amazingly enough, his family tree can be traced back to Lord Brahma, which is, in England there's a TV program where famous people go on and they trace their family line. They go, if they're lucky, they go back 200, 300 years. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta goes back to Lord Brahma, to the birth of the universe. So through the descendants of Chitragupta, so they are the Brahmakayastas, Bharata is the 87th generation from Chitragupta. Then there was Bharadvaj, the 88th. Then came Angira. Then came Brihaspati. In the 149th generation of descendants, then Purushottam, the son of Shivadatta, went to Bengal because the king asked him to. Purushottam's youngest son took sannyas and became famous as Kanakadandi. In the 7th and 8th generations of Purushottam's family, So Purushottam had a young sannyasi son, but Purushottam's the 7th and 8th generation after Purushottam. Vinayaka and his son Narayan Datta did administrative work for the king of Bengal. In the 15th generation from Purushottam, Raj Krishnanandan, the king of Keturi and the father of Srila Narottam Das Thakur, appeared. So directly descended from Narottam Das Thakur. Raj Krishnanandan was also a great devotee and was personally favoured by Lord Nityananda Prabhu. The 7th generation from Krishnanandan saw the appearance of Madan Mohan Datta, who was very famous in Bengal and Calcutta for his spiritual qualities. His great-grandson was Ananda Chandra Datta, and his son was Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, whose 4th son was Bimala Prasad. His name refers to the internal potency of Lord Jagannath. So his name literally means the mercy of the internal potency of the Lord. So that's pretty amazing, right? That we can trace that back through Narottam Das Thakur back to Lord Brahma. So when Bimala Prasad was 7 years old, actually, a deity of Lord Kurma was unearthed. His father told him to worship that deity. There were many pastimes in his childhood which were exceptional. One that devotees remember is when he was 2 or 3 years old. He was running through the house and there was a new basket of mangoes, and he took one of the mangoes and started to eat it, and his father said, "These are new mangoes. If a new fruit arrives, first we offer it to the Lord." And he said, I'm a great offender. I will never eat a mango again. And in Hungary, in England, mangoes they're nice, but in Bengal, they're amazing. And there's mango trees everywhere. So to make this vow not to eat a mango again for a child of 2 or 3 years old was really unusual. And even later, when he was a spiritual master, his disciples would offer him mangoes, and he would say, what's going on? And he would say, "No, I'm an offender. I can't take a mango. I'm a great offender to the Lord." Srila Bhaktisiddhanta he had it's called eidetic memory, photographic memory. Whatever he learned, he would keep. So he would go to school and he would go to class, read the books, and he would go home and he would study. He liked to study astrology, but also he would study the Srimad Bhagavatam. He would study the works of his father. He would go to his father's classes. He would follow him around. He would never do any homework for his school, but he would always get the top marks because he would just read it once and remember. As he went on, then he went to university. He was a great mathematician and astrologer, and he studied under Vasudev Sastri, who was a very famous professor of astrology. And he, I got that wrong. At one point, he was such a great astrologer, he would actually debate anybody on practically any topic, and he would never lose. And once he debated an astrologer. He was a famous astrologer called Panchanana Sahityacharya. He was a disciple of Vasudev Sastri. The debate was held in a famous person's home who judged it also, And the scholar was so defeated that he disgraced himself. And I won't say what happened, but he couldn't make it to the bathroom. He was so strongly defeated. It was like somebody being beaten. Because somebody with such fame to be defeated by a child like that. And when he was 11, he invented a form of shorthand called bichanto. It's called shorthand. So instead of writing full words, you just write a mark. And it means you can write everything. If you're listening to a lecture, you can write notes, but you don't have to write full words. You're just writing a little mark instead of a full word. So it means you can write very quickly. So he invented his own form. Secretaries do, they probably don't know this skill now. My mother she learnt that in secretariat school. So, in 1892, at the age of 18, he took an entrance examination and entered Calcutta's Sanskrit college. But he didn't pay much attention to the classes because he just wanted to read all the philosophical books which were in the library. So and during the holidays, he would discuss the Vedas with scholars. He became learned in so many forms of Vedic knowledge, especially grammar. So his teacher, Pandit Prithvidhara Sharma, was so impressed. He was pushing him to just keep studying this. You'll be the topmost authority in the world if you just keep studying. But he was not interested in becoming famous for grammar. He was only interested in following and understanding the teachings of Lord Chaitanya and spreading throughout the world. So at one point he left college, even though he was going to get very, the topmost achievements. But he understood that if he stayed in college and he got all his qualifications, there would be a lot of pressure on him to get married. Because he would be qualified, he could immediately have a career, but he didn't want to waste his time because he wanted to spread Lord Chaitanya's message, and so he left early. And he was looking for a honest occupation. So he used to write many articles, magazines, astrological texts. He made some money from the astrology. At one point, he was employed by the kings of Tripura from 1895 to 1905. So for 10 years, he was employed by kings in different ways. Especially the king asked him to stop the corruption in his administration because people were stealing money. And he very quickly stopped the corruption. He helped that royal family in different ways until 1905, but then he asked to be released. So it reads very similar to like Rupa, because they were also employed in the service of the kings of that time, right? But the king had such strong affection, he let him go. He didn't keep him, didn't try to lock him up in a prison. He let him go, and he granted him a lifelong pension without any necessity to do any service for them in the future. He was so happy, so impressed, and I guess the king was also pious and could see the evident qualities of Bhaktisiddhanta. But so Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati took the pension for a few years, but then he just let it go. he stopped taking it. So when he was, let me just skip forward a little bit. So in 1905, so he was 31 in 1905. So this is when he left his employ. At least it says that he was doing him different favors up until 1905. So he may not have been fully employed all the time. When he was 31, he took a great vow to chant 300,000 names of Mahamantra, to chant 192 rounds a day until he chanted 1 billion names, which was, he calculated it would take 9 years. If he chanted 192 rounds a day for 9 years, then he would fulfill his vow. So he was in a hut, it's a very simple hut, and he would just sit and chant. By this time, he had already met his spiritual master, Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj, and he was very impressed by his disciples' renunciation. He said, I observed that the renunciation of Sri Rupa Raghunath is manifest in my Prabhu. So he used to address Srila Bhaktisiddhanta as my Prabhu. Srila Prabhupada says about this period, from childhood he was a strict brahmachari, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, and he underwent very severe penances for starting this movement, worldwide movement. That was his mission. At one time the roof in his hut broke. In Bengal, you get heavy rain in Bengal, so the rain would come through the roof, but rather than getting it fixed, he just put up an umbrella and just sit there. He didn't want to waste his time fixing the roof. He just put up an umbrella. There was there's a story of his one disciple who came to him. This disciple was sincere, and he came because he wanted to take shelter of Lord Chaitanya, so he wanted a spiritual master to give him shelter of Lord Chaitanya, and he saw a class by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, but he was taking shelter of some bowels. So bowels are not good people. So these bowels, he was staying in their house. One night he took rest, and in his dream he saw that the male bowel took the form of a tiger, and his wife took the form of a female tiger, and they were both coming to eat him in this dream. And then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati arrived in his dream, chased away the tigers, and took him to Mayapur. So the next morning, the boy woke up and he ran to Mayapur to take shelter of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta used to refer to his disciples as my friends, rescuers from danger, he used to say. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was known as a lion guru. People were afraid of him. They could not stand in his presence. If they saw him walking down the street, they would cross the street in case he would challenge their philosophy, if they had a bogus philosophy. He himself said that there's some very nice things that he said here. He once said, I have most probably given many people troubles in the mind. Some of them might have thought about me that I am their enemy, because I was obliged to speak the plain truth for service and devotion towards the absolute Godhead. I have given them all those troubles only for the reason that they may turn their face towards the personality of Godhead without any desire for gain and with unalloyed devotion. I hope someday or other they may understand me rightly. That was from the last lecture of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So of course we have Srila Prabhupada, the reason we're glorifying him and the reason we know about him is because he's the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada. And one time in Calcutta, Srila Prabhupada was, throughout his youth, Srila Prabhupada had been introduced to hundreds or thousands of holy men through his father. His father would feed sadhus like on a daily basis, like not one but multiple sadhus. He would always ask them to bless Srila Prabhupada to be a good servant of Srimati Radharani. But Srila Prabhupada saw that so many of these sadhus were rascals, like that they would engage in so many nonsense activities, that he became a bit disillusioned with the dress of a sadhu. You know, just to see the dress of a sadhu didn't inspire him so much by this time. So his friend was saying, I've met a very nice spiritual person, please come see him. And Srila Prabhupada was the leader of his friends. He was very difficult to persuade. He was normally doing the persuading, but somehow his friend persuaded him to see this sadhu, and Srila Prabhupada paid his obeisances. Last year we went to this place now. It's Ultadunga Junction. It's a very nicely renovated temple in Calcutta now, where everybody can go and see where this happened. The exact spot where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was sitting, where Srila Prabhupada bowed down. And as soon as Srila Prabhupada paid his obeisances to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Bhaktisiddhanta said, "You are a very intelligent young man. You should preach this Krishna consciousness in English language all over the world." Immediately, he hadn't even finished paying his obeisances by this time. And Srila Prabhupada said that he'd met a very nice sadhu. The teachings of Lord Chaitanya were in very good hands, and Srila Prabhupada said at that moment he accepted him as his spiritual master. He didn't immediately take initiation. It took 11 years, and then he took initiation from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And over the years, he would always make an effort to see him wherever he was. There's often repeated discussion that he had with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta on the banks of Radhakund, because in Calcutta they had a very beautiful opulent temple which had marble walls, marble floors, the altar was marble. We also went there last year. Right? And it's a very opulent temple, especially for those times. But the residents, the disciples there were fighting over who would get which room. So there was so much internal conflict amongst the devotees because of this temple that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said that he would happily sell the marble to print books. And he told Srila Prabhupada, if you ever get money, print books. So this was a discussion he had on the banks of Radhakund. So this is, you think maybe on the banks of Radhakund, what would they discuss in such a holy, highest place in the universe? What kind of truths were they discussing? And truth that they were discussing was print these books, distribute these books. And in one of the temples, there were printing presses in 3 different places. In the Gaudiya Math, there were many temples, but there were especially 3 printing presses. And one of them was set up. We're very careful, and we're in the Pujari area for Radhesham, like not to make noise. And we don't use the taps so much next to the altar because it makes a noise. Don't want to disturb Radhesham. So some of these printing presses were practically right next to the altar. And these were in the 1900 printing presses. They were really noisy, They're going chung, 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 like just heavy metal, steel. And the devotees was saying, Guru Maharaj, is this a good idea? Isn't this disturbing the deities? And he would say that this is it's a beautiful noise. It's like a Brihat Madanga. This is wonderful sound. They appreciate this noise. So, I've got time for anything else? In the end, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, let me just see. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta underwent so many dangers to spread Krishna consciousness. He upset so many people. At one time, they went to bribe the police officer with 25,000 rupees to look the other way while they killed Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. But the policeman went to Bhaktisiddhanta and warned him what was going on. So he also was the personification of Yukta Vairagya as well, driving a Rolls Royce to Radhakund, wearing suit, shoes. He did so many things which were not regular activities for a Gaudiya Vaishnava, but he always had the motivation to spread Lord Chaitanya's mission throughout the whole world. And Srila Prabhupada's, just to round up, Srila Prabhupada said, so on this particular day of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's advent, try to remember his words, that he wanted that many books should be published about our philosophy, and it should be given to the English-knowing public especially, because English language is now a world language. We are touring all over the world, so anywhere we speak English, it is understood, except in some places. So on this day, because he was talking in Mayapur, obviously he would be very happy with Hungarian books being distributed, the translations. On the advent of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, I'd especially request my disciples who are cooperating with me that try to publish books, as many as possible, and distribute throughout the whole world. That will satisfy Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as well as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Thank you very much, he says. Jai Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go back to Vinda ki.